I know this is coming to you a little bit late, but I wanted to talk about this statistics research project and just a few things. So these dates, the most important thing is getting this first part done. I suggest students try to message me about it before. People have submitted them. If you submit it and you don't get all the points, make sure you look at the comments. The idea here is that you can kind of just keep submitting it till you get it right. If you submit it and you get all the points, you might want to look at the comments, because sometimes I'll make a suggestion about the question you might ask or something like that. So your question might not be perfect, but I don't want to necessarily make you submit it again. So it's just a comment there. So make sure you can read the comments on that. But I said earlier, these due dates, they're a little bit fluid. The claim is important to get the claim, an article with a claim, and get that going, get that solid. A claim will usually have a number. It doesn't always need to, but you want to have something that you can test, and you need to make sure that your claim and your question and your data all jive together. That's where students usually miss a lot of points. For most of this, you'll get all these points or none of these points, and sometimes the rubrics are broken up a little bit. So it's important that you do it and you get it correct. Now, the research project should be done using Excel. You should be using Excel for most of the work for the class at this point. So you do not need to submit this part as an Excel document. You can submit a link through, a Word document, whatever, and then your null and alternate hypothesis. Make sure they're in terms. If you're testing a proportion, the null hypothesis will be that P is something, and the alternate that it's less than, greater than, or not equal to. And you can choose that if your article doesn't have a strong claim there. That's really okay. Now, in collecting the data, I am not at all concerned about the type of sample you're getting. If you want to make it really cool, do a systematic sample or something like that, that's fine. But we're on a time crunch here, so it's fine if you survey your friends over social media. You just want to make sure that your sample matches what you collect. Like if you're talking about adults, you need to make sure you're surveying adults. If you're talking about teenagers, you need to make sure you're surveying teenagers. If you're talking about college graduates, student athletes, you need to make sure those are the people that you're surveying. So with the data, depending on the type of project you have, it'll look different. If you're testing a mean, you should have a bunch of numerical answers. If you're testing a proportion, you should have a bunch of yes or no questions, yes or no responses. Like, that's the idea. And these change depending on the category. You will test one of these types of claims, not all of them, unless you're really going crazy. So don't feel like you need to do one mean, a match pair, two means, all of that. You'll just be choosing a claim. Hey, 75% of teachers like Starbucks. Then you go ask a bunch of teachers. That's just a made-up one, but that's an idea there. So once you have a claim type up here and your data, you'll have to do calculations. So again, if you have a mean, match pairs, or a proportion, these are going to be the descriptive stats. You'll need a confidence interval, and you'll be doing a hypothesis test. If you chose two means or two proportions, your descriptive stats, confidence interval, and hypothesis test look a little different, but they're still the same things. You can see a lot of these processes we've been doing a lot. State the hypothesis, sketch a picture. These should be things that you do. We're not looking for AI to create these or finding cool pictures online, but you can sketch them. I've shown how to do the sketching in Excel. It's pretty easy. It's all part of the process. If you're doing regression or correlation, you'll have bivariate data, scatter plot, that kind of fun stuff. But you won't need all of these for each thing. Make sure that you're just doing the right ones. And a lot of times, if you're testing a proportion, that's Module 5. Basically, you'll be doing work like you did in Module 5, but just with the data that you collected. And to that end, I want to pop over here, maybe, to this formula sheet. When you are testing a proportion, finding a confidence interval, notice the error here is p hat, q hat, and n. P hat and q hat come from your sample data. So it's a little different than the standard error we get here, which comes from our claim. So one of the errors students make is use this value here for this one here. But when we're doing confidence intervals, we don't necessarily know what the claim states. So that's why we do that. And the same here if you're testing a mean. You'll be using your sample standard deviation for that data. So just pay close attention to those. If you're testing, means here, notice you have a t-distribution, so you'll be using the t-type data points. Anyway, just some kind of hints here for that sort of stuff. Some common misses, people use the same standard error. We have two separate ones if we're testing a proportion, which a lot of students end up testing. Not everybody will. But our confidence intervals, they come from our sample here. And M here, this is for the slope. Mean is going to be X bar. If you have a claim about a mean, it's going to involve mu. So you're going to have mu equals this, and mu is less than, greater than, or equal to, or not equal to this. When you're setting up your null and alternate hypothesis, they should be in terms of your math equation type stuff, the things that you know or are learning about. So again, coming back to all this, you won't have all these things, but this will all be done in Excel, and I'll just be checking your work as I go through it. The presentation, this was originally set up to use for the STEMposium. Basically, the presentation, what I tell students is, like, if you had just a couple minutes to explain this to somebody, what would you say? It can be a little Word document. It can be set up as a PowerPoint. You can do that however you want. But basically, you want to give the descriptive statistics, the confidence interval, your test hypothesis, but not all the numbers of it. You're kind of assuming you're telling somebody about this. But if you had a quick 2-minute conversation in an elevator to someone who knew statistics and you were trying to convince them of your deal there, that's sort of what this presentation is all about. And all of these parts of the presentation, if you submit them to me early, I'm happy to look at them. Like, you can message them to me. You can submit them in Canvas, and I'll just leave comments, and then you can fix them if they're not correct. But the idea here is that you can submit all of these and get them correct. We just don't want to run out of time because we'll have a lot of things to do near the end. Part 5, if there happen to be corrections to the presentation, that's when you would submit those. That's why this says reflection and corrections. A lot of times this is perfect, and so you're just looking to do reflections. And there are some questions here just to guide this. You don't need to answer all these, but this is worth 20 points, so it should be a decent reflection. You might find something that is surprising in your data. You might find like something that you want to do more research on. So it's kind of your time to keep thinking about it. What would you do? What would you change? What have you noticed? What does this mean for you? You know, those kinds of fun types of things, just like what are we doing? The idea with this project here, it's cumulative over the whole quarter. So we don't have a cumulative final. We just have a final over our last exam is over modules 7 and 8. And so this is the big thing to tie it all up. We'll be using Excel to do the work so I can check it in there. You'll find a claim, hopefully something that interests you. About that. Collect data. Again, it doesn't need to be a fancy method. If you want to, you're welcome to, but you don't necessarily need to do, random sampling. It's probably convenience, and we want to do it quickly, not to set up a lot of time. And then again, you're going to choose one of these types of claims, not all of them. Goodness of fit, we haven't talked about it yet, but you might find a thing that says, people's preference for foods falls into these 5 categories, and these are the proportions. You could survey people and see if your data matches that. So again, with all of this, you can submit them pretty much as many times as you need, as long as we have time. The quarter does end March 18th, so that's when we are out of time. Earlier is better, but you can kind of do the project, the whole thing, if you already know how to do it. Again, if you're testing a mean, that might be out of module 6. You kind of do those problems like you did in the module there, but with the data that you collect. That could be helpful. Feel free to ask questions and ask me to check them. I'm happy to do that and help as we go. This isn't meant to be something you do like without assistance, but it should be your work. Again, feel free to ask any questions that you have. And I'm happy to check everything as we go and keep giving feedback. I have graded everything that has been submitted to me at this point. This is a Monday afternoon. And so make sure you check your feedback. You might get full credit and not really have it all perfect yet. I just don't want to necessarily make you resubmit it again if it's a small adjustment. So check on those, ask questions. Again, good luck as we finish this. Again, you can do modules 7 and 8 kind of at your own pace. You just need to make sure you're ready for that last exam. And also the project, the most important part is getting part 1 done. And oftentimes once you get the part 1 done, once you've collected your data, it goes quite quickly. So again, thanks for your patience, thanks for your hard work, and good luck as we finish this.